Namaste, peace and love to my Bandofla family. You're listening to episode 50 of the Bandofla podcast, and I'm your host, Febzi Hussein. Okay, so where do we start? I guess the first thing I need to do is give you guys a big apology because there's been a bit of a delay getting this latest episode out to you. Um, what can I say? Even the podcast platform people, Anchor, got in touch with me and they were like, Fibsy, man, where you been? You need to get some new material out to get in the studio. So here you go. But in all seriousness, the last few weeks, I've been fortunate enough to have my two beautiful children over with me here in the UK. And hence my time has been dedicated to spending some quality time with them, which I'm sure my listeners will understand. So, getting back to the political turmoil that is the UK, it's a bit like EastEnders, really, isn't it? Because you can, well, it's all very predictable. I can be away for weeks, months, probably years. And then I come back into circulation and not much really changes. It's still all completely mash up from a political point of view. The government's continuing to make a huge mess of it. The government's integrity tank has been running on empty for many years now. I say this nearly on every show, but the Tories just go from one shit show to another. And the country is currently being subjected to the circus that is the Tory leadership contest, which is now whittled down to two people, Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss. People are beginning to say that Liz Truss is going to win. Look, if you really think that things are going to get better under either one of those two people, you're in for a bit of a shock. So yeah, you need to get your head out of the sand, basically. Listening to some of the political messaging behind the two candidates, you just have to stop yourself shouting at the TV, or even worse, putting your boot in through the screen. The continuous acknowledgements by Truss and Sunak that the country is in a mess, which is true, and they've got the plans to fix everything, put everything right. It lacks one fundamental detail, and that is that the bastards have been in charge, have been in power for the last 12 years, and they are the cause of the political decay and corruption that has seen massive numbers of the UK population plunged deeper into food and fuel poverty and distress. The consistent failure of the government has seen food banks continue to grow, and the reliance on food banks is now extended to many people who are in work. The sad thing is that a lot of people who were donating to the food banks regularly are now unable to do so because they simply can't afford to. There are now more food banks in the UK than McDonald's branches. Just let that sink in for a while. Bandofla has been talking about this for months. There are some really, really hard choices that families are having to make when it comes to choosing between heating their homes and putting food on the table. Yes, we've seen hot weather recently. Temperatures have been very high. And I guess many people wouldn't have to put their heating on for a good couple of months, maybe even longer. But we shouldn't forget that the most vulnerable in society who have serious health issues and who cannot regulate their own body temperatures, for example, or who need to keep life-saving equipment switched on in their homes 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And they're wondering just how they're going to pay their electricity bills. So, yeah, this cost of living crisis is just going from bad to worse. And, Truss and Sunak, they don't seem to be given any indication in terms of how they're going to resolve it. Some would say they really don't give a shit because they're okay, Jack. Again, on the cost of living crisis, I really worry about many pensioners living in the UK and how they're going to pay their gas and electricity bills. When you consider that their pension at the moment is, I think it's around £185 a week. Shamefully, it's one of the lowest pension figures. Well, we're not in the EU anymore, but when you consider our neighbours in the EU, I think we're really down the bottom in the league. And the energy cap is expected to rise again to a staggering £4,200 per annum in approximately 100 days from now. This is according to Ofgem. On Ofgem, can someone maybe contact Bandofla and let me know what the point of Ofgem is in terms of being a regulator? Because I can't see them regulating anything. They can't even regulate whatever, man. They're just useless. Under the government, I think most regulators have just become completely toothless. The real issue here on the cost of living is that there is now a class war, and it's in full swing, listeners. The rich are growing massively more affluent, and the working class are being kept on a leash, with the narrative trying to basically con the public that pay rises can't be anywhere near inflation, as it will perpetuate inflationary reactions or some bullshit like that. Listeners, honestly, it is utter nonsense. There's been a brilliant campaign launched recently, which I want to touch on. And you're going to be hearing a lot more about it in the coming weeks and months. It's called Enough is Enough. Very apt name, if you ask me. And I would urge you all to follow them on Twitter. Enough is Enough. And they're on other social media platforms as well. And the big trade unions are already heavily pushing the campaign, which is designed to challenge and change the narrative, so we can push the really important message that the greedy profits that top fat cat executives are earning, and the millions, the hundreds of millions of pounds, billions over a few years that go to the big shareholders. These profits, we have to make sure that they share these bumper profits with the workers who basically helped to make those profits. It sickens me. It absolutely sickens me that, the chief executives and people on boards receive huge salaries. And, if you look at what the basic wage of an earner is, of the basic wage of a worker is, in a company, that it will be hugely multiplied when you consider the comparison of someone, for example, like a CEO and an average worker. We need to rebalance the wealth issues, because it's, like I said, the class war is in full swing. Unions such as CWU, RMT, ASLEF are all coming on board. and the unions will seek to organise in every single workplace, and they're looking to bring the communities together in a collectivism mission that I don't think has been seen before, certainly not in my lifetime. So what is enough? Enough is enough. What are they all about? Well, they have got 5 key aims, and they are as follows. So they want: 1, a real pay rise; 2, to slash energy bills; 3, to end food poverty; 4, to make sure there's decent homes for all; and 5, to tax the rich, because ultimately that's how all the services are going to get funded, instead of constantly being cut by this useless bloody government. So they're 5 very, very honourable priorities, if you ask me. I don't think anyone can argue against those, and even more reason why you need to get behind. Enough is enough. These issues are the fundamental bedrock of a just and fair society. And Bandofla, we will do what we can to support Enough is Enough and their campaign over the coming weeks and months. Indeed, I went to an event just last night at the Clapham Grand, where they had their launch event, and it was so uplifting. There is real passion, there's real fight, and working class people have had enough. Even Bernie Sanders was tweeting about it, saying enough is enough. It's getting massive support, and I think the people of the UK, the working class, will be coming together like we haven't seen in a long, long time. Honestly, we need to wake up and understand that this government is taking the working class for mugs. When it comes to energy prices, the current narrative sees many media platforms talk about this thing like the rocket and feather effect, right? So when the prices go up, they skyrocket, they go up really quick. But when the prices come down, like the barrel of oil or whatever, they call it the feather effect, because it doesn't come down as quickly as it goes up. So the rocket and feather concept, who invented that? That's just the narrative that just makes these companies like BP even bloody richer. And I'm going to come on to that now. So like I said, the only people who really benefit from this and who profit are the big companies. BP has just recorded its biggest profit for 14 years. Are you surprised to hear that? How much it's costing us to put petrol and diesel in our car. It's still not far off £2 a litre. Who's kidding who here? There's some eye-watering evidence that we're all being taken for mugs. So check this out. I touched on BP. Big oil firm BP secured record profits off the back of high oil prices in the aftermath of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. In the second quarter of 2022, BP tripled its profits to £7 billion. Tripled, just in a second quarter period. That's quite staggering. In Shell, BP shareholders aren't the only investors in major oil firms making a killing right now. Between April and June 2022, Shell made record profits of 10 billion, and the firm has promised to give shareholders payouts worth 6.5 billion pounds, and we're paying £2 a litre in the petrol course. Come on, we've got to wake up, man. We've really got to wake up and challenge this narrative of just giving these companies even more profits. They don't need to charge these prices. Centrica, British Gas owned Centrica. They've also had a good year. They confirmed their operating profits for the 6 months ending in June this year. It was 1.34 billion. That's 5 times higher than the company's profits for the same period last year. E.ON, Centrica's profits look big, but they're nothing compared to another energy company. In the first 6 months of 22, E.ON made 3.047 billion profit. Scottish Power, compared to the other energy suppliers, Scottish Power's profits look like small change, but they still made £925 million profit, almost £1 billion in the first half of 2022. And National Grid, the privately owned National Grid, saw profits rise to 3.4 billion in the 2021-22 financial year. These figures I've got from Left Foot Forward, so my thanks for them for that source. There's some great information on there. So, like I said, I hope Bandofla, I really hope that the penny is beginning to drop, because there's only one group of people benefiting from all this, and hark back to what Jeremy said. He was about the 99%, not the 1%. It was all about the many, not the few. And we're seeing now how the few are just raking it in, and how the many are having to just really struggle. So, don't want to say I told you so, but, things are unfortunately becoming very clear for certain people to see. So enough really is enough. And if, like me, you want to do something about it, please follow the Enough is Enough campaign. There's always a choice when it comes to how wealth can be managed. Let's take a quick look at France. I've mentioned France before when it comes to energy prices. They chose to protect their people on the energy price cap. It went through the goodness of the French government and Macron. The people put pressure on the government, and they enforced a maximum increase of just 4%. Our increase on the energy cap is going into 235, 240% by the time we get to next January, February. That's how ridiculous this is. So the French people made their views very clear to the government, and I believe there was a lot of strike after strike, and eventually the government were forced to listen to the public. As with austerity as well, you will remember when the Tories took power back in 2010. I know, God, that's 12 years of pain, man. I can't believe 12 years has gone. And we've lived in that kind of environment. The austerity was always a choice, and the Tories chose, an austerity program to make, people suffer, and those who suffered the most was always going to be those most vulnerable in society, and the rich always will benefit, and they'll get even richer, even during this pandemic, which was the hardest time for all of us. We're still picking up the pieces. Remember Cameron saying, or whoever it was, or it might have been Osborne, we're all in this together. Bullshit. The number of people becoming billionaires during the pandemic increased by 24, and the UK now has 171 billionaires. How can people's wealth increase like that in a period like a pandemic? I don't understand that. Well, actually, I'm taking a piss, because clearly when you remember all those contracts and how the government gave them out to their mates, I do wonder how many of those 171 billionaires are donors to the Tory party. I don't know if someone listening to the program can get in touch with us and maybe enlighten me. So, yeah, listen, I know we've got a lot of international listeners, and I'm sorry, but this program is going to be kind of dedicated more to domestic issues. Next program, we'll try and touch more on a global footing. But yeah, bear with me on this show. So there is a lot going on in the UK. You know my view when it comes to the government. I keep on saying it. I'm not, you know, I don't apologise. They are a terrible government, and on the issue of the Rwandan detention centre and their controversial immigration policy, Bandofla said at the time when the news came out that the government would really struggle to get this policy off the ground. And fortunately, that seems to be the case. And the scandal and the incompetence that seems to be the shadow of this Tory government, as not a week goes by without some shocking news hitting the headlines. On this particular policy, the BBC very recently reported, many other news channels did it as well, that the UK ministers who backed sending asylum seekers to Rwanda were warned by their own advisors that the Rwandan government had recently been torturing and killing political opponents, and we were gonna we after knowing that, after getting that information, the government went ahead with this policy. So the warning came weeks before the British government tried to send the asylum seekers to the African nation. The advisor raised concerns about the tone and accuracy of an official note on Rwanda's human rights record, and there is an ongoing legal challenge against the government attempts to keep more of the comments secret. There's a breaking news on that point, and I'm going to come to that in a bit. It absolutely sickens me that this government would send these incredibly vulnerable people, asylum seekers who have witnessed unimaginable pain and grief, to a country that is known to torture and kill political opponents. This is not Bandofla making this shit up. This is a document produced by a Foreign Office official with expertise in African affairs. This really can't go on. It's like one thing after another, but this government has like Teflon powers. Nothing seems to stick. And the journalists and mainstream media seem to be too flipping scared to challenge them. Why can't the media challenge this government and hold them to task over these horrendous policies, these horrendous actions? It really frustrates me. We have a government who's quite prepared to ignore fundamental red flags around vulnerable people's safety, with the likes of Priti Patel, Rishi Sunak, and Liz Truss all openly saying that they are committed to making the Rwanda plan work. I think it would be remiss of me at this point not to acknowledge, and we mentioned on previous shows, the brilliant legal challenges that are being made against this government. And I know that Care for Calais is at the forefront of this campaign. So seriously massive kudos to Claire Mosley, who is the founder of Care for Calais, and her brilliant, dedicated team. Soon, we hope that hopefully we'll be able to celebrate that this racist policy will finally be put to bed once and for all. But knowing what the Tories are like, they will try and reinvent it in some other twisted kind of way. But this hot off the press news, latest news, literally came out today. This is the day that we're recording, which is the 18th of August. The High Court has ruled that the government have to release the damning advice from within, which they have tried desperately to keep secret. So I will be looking forward to see, how damning that advice was. I think it's going to be pretty clear. And if the media channels are listening, to Bandofla, I know there are a few of them that do. Please just hold the bastards to account, man. Do your flipping job. That's all I'm asking. That's all the public is asking, you know? So anyway, my final point on the government and the utilities, I just want to touch on water. Everything is bloody privatized in this country. It's all about profit. And you know, when you're so focused on profit, you normally put stuff like profit even before safety. We see this with, you know, on the railways when there's crashes and stuff, and sadly people lose their life. On water, I have been advised that we are the only country in the world that has privatized water. Can you believe that? I can believe it. How can you privatize something like water? It's just quite scandalous. And then, you know, when you look at, there's now a hose pipe ban or various bans that have been announced across the UK because of the weather. But the amount of leaks that these water companies aren't fixing and the scandalous amount of water loss through the leaks, you know, it's just, you know, again, this is just incompetence on another scale. And then you've got brilliant people like Fergal Sharkey, the former singer. Fergal's doing some brilliant campaigning on the environment issue because the water companies are dumping a load of shit into the sea. Raw sewage. Yesterday, 50 seasides across the coastal points on the UK, there was warning sent to say to the public, do not go into the sea because raw sewage has been pumped into the channel or the North Sea, wherever it was around the UK coast. They're dumping raw sewage in the sea, you know, and today someone from, I think, Southern Water was saying, you know, people who want to go into the sea should need to make a judgment. It's like, you know, what kind of irresponsible bullshit is that? All this needs to be challenged, yeah. So keep spreading the message. You know, we've got to stand up and try and do something. But I'm coming to the end of this show. I think it's number 50, by the way. We're proud to have done 50 shows. I think we said we hit 50 before, but I think this is officially number 50th episode. Hopefully we'll be going for another 50 more. So yeah, my positive thing to finish on, at the weekend, I had the massive pleasure of attending UK Black Pride. It was on the 14th of August at the Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park in Stratford. And OMG, what can I say? There was over 25,000 people there, and it's officially now the biggest Black Pride event in the world. And mega congratulations to my amazing friend, Lady Phil, who is one of the co-founders of UK Black Pride. Lady Phil, I know you'll be listening because I'll send you the link when I publish. I have to say it was such an uplifting day. And I already can't wait to go to UK Black Pride 2023. Well done to all the organisers, and a special shout to my sisters at the Black and Brown Rainbow. Their stall was amazing, definitely the best stall there on the day. Right, so hopefully there won't be as long a break until the next episode. I am in the middle of reading Silence is Not an Option, a mother's story as she continues to fight for justice for her son's death. I can't wait to interview Sukhdev and give her this platform so more of us can support her amazing campaign. She is a true warrior for racial justice. Either before we interview Sukhdev or after, I've also got confirmation that we will be doing a special episode with another good friend of mine, Molly Smith. Molly is an area manager for Show Racism, the Red Card, Northwest region. She's doing a brilliant job for the charity. And we will be dedicating that particular show to speak about anti-Semitism. It is an issue that we have to face head on and continue to raise awareness and offer support to our Jewish brothers and sisters. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Apologies again for the delay. If there's one thing to remember from this show, one thing for you to take away, go on Google Enough is Enough, and the issues around the cost of living crisis. Don't forget, if you're not in a trade union, ask yourself why. Please join one today. And as Mick Lynch said on TV, if you are in a union, get involved in the campaign. Enough is enough. Together, we can make sure that things will be different, will be better, and workers will be treated with dignity and respect that they deserve. You can follow Bandofla on Twitter at _Bandofla, BANDOFLA, or email me at podcastbandofla@gmail.com. Until next time, peace and love. You've been listening to Bandofla, and I'm your host, Fevzi Hussein. Adios.